When the unexpected plunges us into a life-and-death emergency, sometimes only our own inner strength can keep us alive. I'm William Shatner. Tonight, 2 stories of courage against all odds on Rescue 911. We begin on the afternoon of November 12th, 1989, at a small airport in Frankfort, Indiana, where some friends were enjoying the final weeks before winter set in.
When you leave the door, every cell of your body is focused on what you're doing. So that's the great part about this sport. It's so totally captivating.
Having performed at many skydiving exhibitions, Mark Slater and his friend Steve Kivett were rehearsing a stunt known as an intentional cutaway.
On this particular day, we were using a very small 12-foot parachute. Never was it intended for carrying a man. If you hang a man under this parachute, he's going to hit the ground at 50 to 60 miles an hour.
Now, one more time, on the exit.
So I explained to him, here's the way it's packed. I want you to hold it between your hands, twist out into the airflow, and put it behind your head.
With both hands up, toss it.
After riding the small cargo chute for a while, Steve would then cut it away so he could release his main chute.
We decided to do this jump from 8,000 feet. The higher you are, the safer you are, because the more time you have to deal with an emergency.
4 other people in the plane were planning to jump at 5,000 feet, including Steve's girlfriend, Angie Sellers.
I was getting ready to make a skydive myself. I had a new system that I'd never jumped before, so I was pretty nervous.
Mark planned to take still photos of Steve during the jump using a helmet camera.
We're excited about this. This is going to be a fun, a very unusual, wild and crazy skydive, and we're both looking forward to it. Everything appeared normal. But as I passed him and began to deploy my main parachute, I noticed that the 12-foot, or the small parachute, was much higher above his head than it should have been. So there's an instant there that something has gone wrong here. I don't know what it is. I hope that Steve knows what it is, but at any rate, we have plenty of time to figure this out. With a 50-mile-an-hour rate of descent and me with a normal open parachute, the only way I could match his rate of descent was to put my canopy in a violent spin. And I'm spiraling and he's roaring out of the sky. Every time I would slow down my spin, he would get further and further away.
Mark kept expecting Steve to cut away the small chute so he could open his main one, but he never did. Angie was unaware that Steve was having any problems.
And I just touched down to land and didn't even have my gear off. The parachute's just behind me, everything's still on. And somebody yells, "Kivett's in trouble." And I just turned around, where?
Come on, Steve,
And my heart was going about 1,000,000 miles a minute.
what is wrong with you?
We thought, is he just pushing this just to get an extra thrill? What's going on? And he was getting lower and lower, and nothing was happening.
No, come on.
I knew he was in trouble because at that altitude, if he didn't do something right then, he wasn't going to make it.
When we continue,
That's when it really started to hit me that, my God, he's going to have to land with this small parachute. And I had no reason to think that he could live through that.
when When the lines of Steve Kivett's parachutes became entangled during a practice stunt dive, it became impossible for him to cut away a small chute and open his main one. Steve was hurtling towards the ground, out of control, at more than 50 miles an hour.
Someone called for an ambulance, while Angie and the others rushed toward the area where Steve was headed.
Hello, I'm calling from the Frankfort Municipal Airport. We have a skydiving accident off of the airport. We believe
There was no way of knowing exactly where Steve would land, but the Frankfort Fire Department immediately dispatched rescue units toward the airport.
east of the airport on Route 28.
After the top two-thirds of the skydive has gone by and nothing has changed, I'm now hoping that he finds some way to get his reserve out. That has to be the next option. And just as I thought that, he better get his reserve out now, I begin to see the red fabric coming off. But it doesn't catch air, it doesn't inflate. And then it really started to sink in. That's when it really started to hit me that, my God, he's going to have to land with this small parachute. And I had no reason to think that he could live through that.
I know what a bounce is. I've never, thank God, witnessed one, but there's no way. There's no way on God's earth a person survives that.
Oh, man. Gotta get rid of it, Steve.
I was screaming on the way down, just yelling to him, "Get rid of it, Steve, get rid of it."
At a car dealership down below, Ken Peters had just happened to stop by to look around, even though the lot was closed.
I began to hear voices, but I couldn't really tell audibly what they were saying. So I looked from side to side, couldn't see anybody, but then I just happened to glance up, and I could see two parachutists. The one, judging from the size of the parachute that he was coming down on, he was really in trouble. I kind of hated what I was going to see, but I knew that if there was any chance that I had to do something.
I have another 20, 30 seconds to spiral down, during which time I'm thinking, what am I going to find? When I get to him, what am I going to see? Am I going to see my best buddy in a crumpled heap?
Is he all right? Is he alive? Is he breathing? Don't move.
I said, you get out to the highway and tell the ambulance where to turn.
Great. The ambulance has been called. Get out on the highway and tell them where to turn in so they can find us. Steve.
When I got to him, I can't believe it, but he's alive.
Keep breathing, buddy. Help son.
I started yelling, Steve, stay with me. Work on it. Fight it, brother. Stay with me.
Among the rescuers who treated Steve at the scene was EMT Richard Sheets.
I remember thinking there's going to be a very slim chance of this person is surviving a fall from 8,000 feet. He had some minimal bleeding through his ears and nose and mouth, but he was conscious and able to talk to us. Very surprised.
Be fine, Steve. Still keep breathing. Where do you hurt, Steve? Just try to relax.
Angie and the others spotted the flashing lights of the emergency vehicles at the car lot.
And we looked over there, and I saw blood trickling out of Steve's mouth, and I just thought, there's no way. He hadn't moved at that time or spoken. And then I heard him say, "Where's Angie?" And so I ran over there, and he looks up and says, "Hi, baby," of all things. And I wanted to touch him so bad, but I didn't know where I could, what I could touch. And the paramedic said you could hold his hand.
Steve was rushed to Clinton County Hospital, where he was examined by Dr. Janine Milet.
He had injuries everywhere, from head on down. He had breaks in his jaw. He had bleeding into his head. He had breaks in his chest, his ribs, his hip, his ankles. So he really sustained injury everywhere, his entire body.
Angie was at the hospital night and day as Steve slowly recovered. He still faced months of grueling physical therapy, but after 6 weeks, he was released from the hospital.
The emergency personnel that brought him in were key in making sure that this gentleman survived. One thing it probably did teach me was how much a body could take and still survive. I was very surprised.
How high do you want to go?
I'm going it. I have thought I was going to die before, but I was never as definite sure as this time. I jumped out of the plane, everything seemed pretty much normal. But as I came out, all the lines entangled, which I didn't know at the time. And then I just threw that little parachute, and that's where all the entanglement started. And you've only got a matter of seconds before you know you're in the index. You know that book is over. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. You know that you're gonna die, that you just can't change it.
But Steve managed to survive in part because he knew how to land so that the impact was spread over his entire body.
And I thought, you're hurt, but you are alive. I kept thinking, I cannot believe I have lived through this. That would have been the thing I wanted to say to everybody that walked up. Can you believe I just lived through that? Can you believe I just lived through that? Amazing.
To me, there's only one reason. Steve's sense of survival. He could have just gave up and laid there, and that's been it. But he fought. He fought.
A year and a half after the accident, Steve Kivett and Angie Sellers were married.
After I started skydiving again, I thought, my goodness, people should never desert their dreams. I really do get to fly.